Hi guys, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay, Ripple have released a new product, so I'm going to go through this and then I'm going to explain why I do actually think this is going to be a positive thing for XRP and the XRP Ledger. I'm sure when you guys first hear it, you're going to start to have a huff and a puff and a sigh, but I'll explain why I do still think overall this is going to be positive. So it's called Ripple Mint. So I'm going to go through the article here and then we'll talk through it as we go along. So it says, at Ripple, we're focused on making digital dollars easier to access, integrate, and operate at scale. Ripple Mint is here, a unified way for institutions to access, mint, redeem, and manage Ripple USD, in brackets RRUSD. There goes the size, but bear with me. As stablecoins become embedded in trading, payments, and treasury operations, access must evolve beyond manual workflows. Ripple Mint reflects this shift, giving institutions the flexibility to interact with RRUSD either through a user interface or through programmatic integration. Why Ripple Mint? Designed for institutional use, RRUSD is issued by Standard Custody and Trust Company LLC, a New York Department of Financial Services, in brackets NYDFS, chartered trust company, providing the regulatory oversight and transparency that institutional adoption requires. For institutions operating at scale, that foundation matters. So does what's built on top of it. Historically, RRUSD operations have been managed through a platform-based experience. While effective, this approach does not fully support the needs of institutions operating at scale, where automation, real-time visibility, and system integration are critical. Ripple Mint expands how institutions can access RRUSD by supporting both user interface access for operational control and oversight, programmatic access for automation and system level integration. This allows institutions to choose how they interact with RRUSD based on their workflows, whether managing activity manually through a web console or integrating RRUSD directly into their own infrastructure. With Ripple Mint, institutions can mint and redeem RRUSD directly from the source, bridge RRUSD across chains, track funds across the full life cycle of a transaction, integrate RRUSD operations into the internal systems or workflows. Existing users can continue operating without disruption, with the same reliability, security, and compliance they expect, now through a platform designed to support both manual and automated workflows. Built for programmatic and operational workflows, Ripple Mint is designed to support both operational and problematic workflows, giving institutions flexibility in how they access and manage RRUSD. Through new APIs and WeBook notifications, customers can now integrate RRUSD workflows directly into their own systems, enabling automation, operational visibility, and easier reconciliation. Okay, I'm going to leave it there because you're getting the gist of what this is, right? It's basically a new product for institutions with regards to managing RRUSD, minting RRUSD, etc., redeeming RRUSD. It's basically anything to do with like stablecoin. It's basically everything to do with Ripple's USD stablecoin. So, obviously, when you hear that, I know the big thing comes into question again, why RRUSD, why not XRP, blah, 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 blah. So the first thing that we've got to acknowledge is just the basic fact that stablecoins have came in and they're just taking a piece of that action when it comes to payments. So that's just the fact of the matter. I showed you guys a video before where banks were actually saying, look, we're looking at doing cross-border payments through stablecoins. We're not going to be using like a bridge asset like XRP, that kind of thing. That's just something that we just have to accept and acknowledge. It just is what it is. So for me, what I would say is that this is like the next best thing, right? The next best thing is using a stablecoin that is based on the XRP Ledger. Why? Well, two reasons. One, because every time they use RRUSD on the XRP Ledger, it's still going to require XRP to be used, and it's still going to require XRP to be burned for every transaction. So if these institutions start coming in and doing this on a big scale, that's going to increase obviously the volume, the activity. It's going to increase the burn rate for XRP, making XRP more scarce over time. So I'm not saying that this is going to be an overnight thing where the volume just shoots up and then suddenly XRP goes to crazy numbers. But over time, XRP can become more scarce. The thing that could actually help this as well is, obviously, we've been talking recently about how AI agents are coming into play now, right? And that's causing a huge thing where when we've talked about like network scaling and stuff like that, we've just been going by like general human interaction, right? That's how we've been predicting the kind of volume and activity that we will be seeing on these ledgers and networks. But if you start bringing in the AI agents, well, you can like multiply that by thousands, if not millions of transactions now, because if you've got all these AI agents doing all this autonomously, you're not requiring human interaction anymore. So the amount of transactions that can increase at that point is crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. So that could increase their activity majorly. So if these banks are then using AI agents and stuff like that as well, well, that's going to be even bigger. So that's going to add to it. The second thing I'll say is like XRP could actually still be used as a bridge asset in certain circumstances. So if we think about RLUSD being paired to a token that's got very low like liquidity or demand or an exotic corridor, well, that could still lead to them using XRP as the bridge, because that would still be the best way to resolve that problem. So it is actually still a possibility that XRP is actually used as a bridge asset in some of these services, right? Very possible. So it doesn't kind of negate XRP completely. So that's where, again, these banks or institutions, whatever, they might be thinking like, hey, look, we're not using crypto. Like, we'll use RLUSD because it's a stable coin. It's the closest thing we can use in crypto to a dollar. But we're not going to use like a crypto, just a crypto on its own. So like, we're not willing to use like XRP or Bitcoin or Ethereum. No, we'll use stable coins that are pegged to a dollar. We like those, but we're not using crypto. Well, in that regard, they can still use the stablecoin, but if it's going to like an exotic corridor, as I said, or like a token with low volume, etc., this is where XRP can be used in the background. So they won't even realize it. And this is what I mean when I talk about like mass adoption. That's what we're talking about in the mass adoption phase. The mass adoption phase is where like crypto is being utilized, but people don't even realize it, right? So if you think about like going to a shop in this day and age at the moment, when you go to a shop and use your card, usually they might say like there's a certain minimum expense that you have to pay to be able to use the card machine, right? And that's because there's fees involved for each transaction. So for the shop, if you're buying something that's only worth like a few cents, like 20 cents, to them it's not worth using the card machine because the fees are going to be more than what they've made from the sale. So they're actually going to end up in a loss. So they put like a minimum spend to be able to use the card machine. Then also when you use that card, the payment doesn't just directly come off of your card, right? Like you will see that on your account, you'll have an account balance and then an available balance. So your account balance is what is actually in your account physically at that time. The available balance will then take off the money that's going to be due to come out of your account, and that will hold that back so that you don't spend that money, because that money is now earmarked for the shop that you went to, right? So if you spent, for example, $2 in a shop and you use the card machine, so if you, let's just say, had $10 in your bank account, you go to the ATM and it will say your account balance is $10, because at the moment that's what's physically in your account. But your available balance will be $8, right? Because that $2 that you've just spent in the shop, it's earmarked waiting to go out of your account. Now, when we talk about like mass adoption, that will be done on crypto. So what will happen is there'll be no fees because it'll be so cheap anyway. The shop can let you use your card for whatever. So if you did just want to use 20 cents in the shop, that will be fine, because it's literally going to be fractions of a cent for them anyway. So the cost is going to be negligible for them. So for them, they'll be like, yeah, you can use your card for whatever you want. That's fine. And when you do use your card at that point, it's not going to be account balance and available balance. That money will take out straight away. You'll have that instant settlement. So your balance will always be completely up to date. There's no earmarking waiting for the shop to take it after a few days. It's gone. It's already gone and been delivered. So that's what I mean when we talk about the mass adoption phase of crypto. And so when we're talking in that regard, this is going to be, even if these banks don't realize it, the crypto will still be utilized if that's what's needed, right? They don't even have to know that, or they'll learn in time. But even in that regard, they'll still be happy because they're holding the stablecoin, right? They're interacting with the stablecoin. What happens in between is just literally 3 seconds. So to them, that's not going to impact them, right? They're not going to be anti, crypto just to that degree where it's like, I don't want no crypto involvement. It's more, they don't want to hold the crypto asset. So for them, they'll be fine. That I believe they'll be willing to accept. I don't think that'll be an issue. So it is still going to have its positives here, right? Like, yes, it is mainly focused on RLUSD clearly, again, we've got to just say this, like Ripple are a business. They are going to do things that's going to benefit them as a business. And at the end of the day, like stablecoins are just here. Like they are going to be a big part of crypto's future. At the end of the day, I just, we can't deny that fact. We literally see it happening. So I don't blame Ripple for doing this. In all honesty, I think that's fair enough. And at the end of the day, it is still going to benefit XRP. Like it is still going to bring utility in terms of, volume on the ledger, XRP being burnt, adding to scarcity, XRP still potentially being used as a bridge asset. So all those factors are still there for XRP. So to me, when I look at this, I don't just look at it as, well, why not XRP? I look at it as, well, this could be bringing activity to the ledger that might not have been here otherwise, right? Because if these banks are saying, well, look, we're not willing to use crypto, but we'll use stable coins, well, they wouldn't have used XRP in the first place. So at least now, if they use Ripple Mint, at least at that point, then XRP will get some activity indirectly, which it wouldn't have got originally because they just wouldn't have used the network at all. Do you see what I mean? So I look at it a bit differently because I still see it as it's still bringing in activity for XRP. So it is all about your perspective, but to me, this isn't a negative at all. And it's not, Ripple pivoting or anything like that. Yes, they are using stablecoins as well, but it makes sense. Like it's still going to add to the ledger anyway. So I think overall this is a positive, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'll definitely be interested to see how this pans out and what it does. I think it's definitely going to be something that's going to be useful because Ripple's stablecoin is already it's come on leaps and bounds since it's been released. It's really doing well, to be honest with you, for Ripple. So it makes sense for them to continue to build on that impact. And again, it's bringing stuff to the XRP ledger, institutions, etc. and activity. So I'm not going to complain with that at all. But anyway, I'll leave it there. If you did like this video, please remember to like, comment and subscribe so you can be updated for future XRP content. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be alerted on when I do drop a new video. Thank you very much for watching this, and I'll see you all on the next one.